Hello, I'm Cam from Move with Cam, a one-to-one movement coach based in the UK in Bristol. And I am here today to talk a little bit about adapting movement for people in bigger bodies and just thinking about body diversity in general. So it's a huge topic, and I could do probably a year-long course on this subject. I don't think I want to, but I could. There's a lot around it. There's a lot to do with mindset. There's infinite creative possibilities. And there's a lot to do with how we as coaches put ourselves into the world, the way we work with our clients, and also how we as people view ourselves and each other in the world and the stories we tell ourselves about our bodies and what our bodies mean in the greater context of the world of movement and well-being. And it's really hard to not get tangled in the weeds of that, especially for someone like me who has actively moved out of group teaching and into one-to-one teaching as a result of being a specialist in working with body diversity. So it's not to say that everybody, every person that walks into my room has a specified diversity aspect to how they work or need to work. But I definitely appeal to people who want something that's more tailored and more specialist that will accommodate their body better. Certainly, the thing that I've learned from 10 years of working with making movement accessible to as many people as I can and to remove barriers to entry and to try and become more and more adept and agile at adapting movement is that everybody is different. And it has no bearing on any broad sort of stroke to do with the size of a body, the ability of a body, the shape of a body, the strength, fitness, or anything else to do with the body or a mind. So we're all unique. And actually, once you start working that way, once I started working that way, it became a bit arbitrary to differentiate people by characteristics to do with size. That said, pragmatism rules, right? So I didn't feel that way when I was in a bigger body and I felt like I was going into classes or work, and even now working in contexts where programs or coaches seem very unavailable to just talk about bodies as real things that have features that can affect how we approach each movement. And that in itself is very isolating and it's extremely unhelpful. So I'm here to try and address some of those things. I would love to talk more about this. It's not that I'm going to today. It's not something that I'm willing to sit and debate and argue about in message boards or on comments threads. This is an important topic and it's to do with real people. So it's not, and it's mostly based on facts. There's not an awful lot that's necessary for discussion around attitudes, but we are going to talk a little bit of attitude. And seeing as I'm here, let's get into it. Seeing as I've mentioned the attitude, I've divided this section, this talk, this mini workshop into 3 parts: attitude, approach, and authenticity. Attitude is all about mindset, and it is a big and gnarly subject around body size. And we know this. I probably don't need to retread the ground, and I'm definitely not going to unpick everyone's unconscious, conscious, subconscious biases just by sitting here and ranting and raving into a screen at myself. For me, a lot of what I'm going to say is blindingly obvious, and I really hope that will be the case for you too. Or if it's not, then it will feel it when you hear some very simple statements. So let's start with the first aspect of attitude. What stories are you telling yourself that are unhelpful and inaccurate and not true about body size, your body size, other people's body sizes, or the value of body size? And are those stories holding you back? Now, sometimes we tell ourselves stories in order to sort of help us move forward, and we don't even stop to think whether maybe actually the story is wrong and it's holding us back. And I think that the story around body size is one of those, and for a lot of people, it's the story you tell yourself that somehow changing your body size is an important part of feeling better, being happy. While all of those things may be true one day or have been true in the past, it's not a useful story. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't help open doors for you. So let's, take a little time to consider the stories you tell yourself about body size, your body size, that are closing doors and closing opportunities, and really shutting you off from enjoying yourself and having some agency over what you do, how you do it, who you work with. If you're a coach, that are maybe causing, if you have ideas and stories in your mind about people and their bodies that you're bringing into your teaching and coaching sessions, you may be reinforcing some really unhelpful ideas and attitudes in your clients, and it is not your job to do that. In fact, it is your job to stop, to unpick and examine those things. So what are you harboring? And specifically the biggie, I'm going to tell you a new story. For some of you it will be new, for some of you, I really hope for all of you, it'll be really obvious. This is the big story that we need to understand and absorb, because it is a true story. You can't determine a person's health, their character, or their lifestyle by the size of their body. I know that some people are going to be really stressed by that sentence, but it's just the truth. You cannot determine a person's health, character, or lifestyle, and let's add ability or capability, by the size of their body. Now, to me, that is a sentence that's so self-evident that it's barely worth saying. But for most people, I think that might be the first time they've really thought about it that straightforwardly. So some of those bits are really obvious. Like, you can't tell what a person's personality or character or moral fibre is by the shape or size of their body. Ridiculous. Of course you can't. But you can't. I mean, you just can't. All sorts of people come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. It has no bearing on their body size, has no bearing on any of it. You can't tell their lifestyle. No, you can't. If you're sitting there going, well, you know that they don't go running every day. No, you don't. You don't know anything. You know nothing. And celebrate that. You don't know anything. You don't know why a person is in the body that they're in. Is it genetic? Is there illness? Is there disease? Is there disability? What is there? You don't know anything, right? And that goes for people of all sizes. I'm not specifically talking about larger bodies right now. You don't know. You don't know anything about a person's lifestyle. You don't know a person's health by looking at their body unless you have DEXA scan eyes, laser eyes that you can see their muscle mass. You don't know what a person's body composition is, and you can't tell by looking at them. You can't. You just can't. And that goes for all people of all sizes. And let me just reassure you, if you're feeling stressed and annoyed at me right now, these are facts. I'm not giving you my value judgments. This is science. These are facts. And let me tell you, if you can, just for the sake of this chat, relax and just accept those as facts, it almost doesn't matter by the time you get to approach, because your feelings stop mattering when you start thinking about the craft of adapting movement for bodies. But you open the doors to so much more possibility in life, the universe, and everything if you put your stories down. Walk away from them for a while, knowing that you can always pick them back up again. But I promise you, your stories, the ones that I've just maybe slightly poked, those stories are not serving you, and they may be harming you and other people. Whereas the other story, the one I just told you, where you don't and cannot judge a person by their cover, by their shell, that story will open up the world for you and for others. So why not try it? And also, like, if this is to do with the stories you tell yourself about yourself, oh my God, even better. Because you might not feel comfortable in your body, and that is true. And I absolutely think that people have the right to say, you know what, that's true, but I still feel uncomfortable in the body I'm in, regardless of its size and shape. You deserve to be able to feel comfortable in your body, but it doesn't start with cruelty, and it doesn't start with value judgments. It starts with, what can I do with the body that I'm in to help me find what's awesome about it? Because I'll tell you, as a coach, every single human body that I come into contact with, I always think, oh my God, you're amazing what you can do. And people sort of huff and puff and they pull faces and they're ever so humble. But no, every single body is amazing, and yours is as well, but you just got to find the thing. And so you want to work with a coach who appreciates and knows that about you, and who doesn't look at your shell and make a lot of random pointless judgments about your life. So whichever side of the fence or in between the fence you are, find out, what are the stories that are holding you back? As a coach, as a client, as both, can we unpick them? And are you in the company of people who are reinforcing those stories? Can you take yourself away? And, you know, it's not necessarily your job to confront people or to change their minds, but you can take yourself out of environments where you feel like the story is negatively impacting your ability to build a good relationship with your body. So that's the biggest part of attitude. As trainers, I think it's really important for us to stay in our lanes regarding people's lifestyle habits, beyond what we do in the training, and beyond how their lifestyle habits affect the training. So dietary advice should be strict. I believe this, and this is how I work. I don't offer weight loss. I don't offer products. I don't offer nutritional advice beyond if it impacts how people are training in their sessions. So if weight loss is not part of your bigger picture for training with me, for example, but it is something in your mind, and you keep turning up to our strength training sessions fasted because part of you thinks that you're going to lose weight, if you turn up to my session fasted, but as a result I can't work with you because your heart rate is flying, and because you're getting dizzy spells, and because your blood pressure is going either through the roof or through the floor, and your blood sugar's tanked, then I'm going to say to you, I need you to eat a healthy snack before you come to sessions. Please don't come to a session at 2:00 in the afternoon having not eaten since yesterday. This is the kind of food that you can eat that will fuel you for the session without filling you up if you don't want to feel full. Or this is the kind of food you need to eat after if you need that guidance. Most people don't need that guidance, but sometimes people don't realize the strength level they're working at because it's progressive. And I'll say, you know, you need to make sure you need to refuel your body after that session. We worked really hard. You feel really good, but please make sure you have a good, healthy dinner with lots of, it's going to be broccoli, or greens, or beans, or something really like dense and full of really healthy energy. So, but staying in lane is really important. For the sake of completion, I'm just going to say that for those of you who want to make changes to your lifestyle that may affect your body shape, size, or how it feels or how it performs, there are 3 things you need to look at together, ideally: sleep, diet, as in a healthy, balanced, whole food, nutritional diet, and movement. And those 3 together are the only way to improve your health, and the best way to improve your health. Sleep is generally the best starting point for most people. Sleep and movement are the foundations of feeling good. And then diet can follow suit. Diet is the one that most people have trouble with. And I personally, and the science bears this out, restrictive and unbalanced diets that are focused too much on calories in, calories out, and not enough on what your days look like and how your gut microbiome works and how your body uses the food and how the enjoyment you get from it and the when and how you eat and what you're doing with your days. Those fad diets, it's starting to bear out that people who lose a lot of weight on fad diets usually end up putting them back on plus an extra 30%. It is a good idea to look at your diet as a long-term, lifelong change and think about positive things that you can add in the realms of whole food, plant foods, and try and make changes that way. But you're looking at whole food, eating whole food, rather than trying to take food out and trying to liquidize your food or adding powders, or really start to look at like a really nice Mediterranean style is the default, but fruit, vegetables, greens, whole foods. That's all I'm going to say on diet. Each to their own, but don't turn up to strength training fasted or fast afterwards. You need to fuel your body to get strong. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on diet. Attitude. We'll come back to this. The movement serves the person. That's very important. The movement serves the person and not the other way around. And we'll come back to that when we talk about approach. And then the last couple of things, which are a bit more subtle, and you'll have to sort of take your own time to think about it. If you're the person doing the movement, or the coach, really, but the person doing the movement specifically, why are you doing this movement? What is it that you want from the movement? Regardless of your body size, but particularly when there is body diversity in the mix, particularly bigger bodies, can you really honestly, safely answer that question? If the answer is mostly because you want to be smaller or thinner, then can you revisit your motivation and find one that's more fulfilling, more long-term, more satisfying and productive? For example, because you want to move more freely, because you want to have more energy, because you want to enjoy moving your body, because you want to open up routes to day-to-day life feeling better and easier, because it's so much fun, because you like working with your coach. Think about things that are much more to do with deeply held feelings and values, to do with enjoying yourself, to do with building your quality of life. And see if you can reframe some of those stories that we were talking about earlier into positive stories that become reasons to move. Your body, regardless of what kind of body it is, loves moving, and it feels good when it moves. Can you wire your brain to that by making it part of your reason for doing it? Now, your reasons are your reasons, but let me tell you, trying to accomplish one specific goal is not a very good reason. It is a goal within a greater picture, perhaps, but it's not a reason, because once you've achieved that goal, then what? Are you present with the movement that you're doing today? And weight loss is not a good goal for movement. It really, really isn't an effective goal. And it's not the most effective way to lose weight, and it's not an effective goal for movement. It's not the reason to move. Because once you've lost the weight, say it was possible for you to lose any weight that you wanted to through a movement mode, then what are you going to do once you've lost the weight? If you stop moving, or if you get sick, or if you injure yourself and you have to change how you move, then you've made your movement contingent on weight and vice versa. So make your movement to do with something deeper and more nourishing and more adaptable. It's a wonderful thing to explore these things, because you will find parts of yourself that are so much more open to different ways of approaching life, whether you're a coach or a person who's trying to do some moving and shaking. Okay, so that's attitude. Part 2, approach. So this is the meat for most people. How do we approach adapting movement for our clients in diverse bodies, particularly bigger bodies? How do we adapt movement for ourselves if we're in a asynchronous coaching program or following a course that isn't specifically addressing the possibility that perhaps your body is bigger? Right, it's actually really straightforward, you'd be glad to know, and a lot of it comes down to one simple rule of thumb. I touched on it earlier. The movement serves the person. So that actually comes under the heading of all of these things. But let's start with the movement serves the person. Permission and agency to change, adapt, and enjoy movements in a way that's comfortable for you in your body today, or not do them if they don't feel good. Make space for your body and allow your body to take up space. Use equipment to help, to support you, to build and grow, and to explore movements in a way that's safe and comfortable. And be creative with it. And use the GMB principles: assess, address, apply. So let's just go through those 5 things. This is the most important part of this conversation insofar as practical considerations go. I'm not going to do any movement because these are just principles. If you apply them, it will work. The movement serves the body. The movement serves the person, not the other way around. So it's really simple. It sounds really obvious, doesn't it? But too often, almost all of us have done this at some point to ourselves, if not to someone else. We try to squash our bodies into a shape, not really knowing why, and knowing that it feels wrong or bad. and as coaches, we can be guilty of going, well, today we're going to do this thing. Say we're going to practice a handstand. Handstand's an easy one because it's such a complex skill. And instead of working with the person who's in front of you and their body and it's how it looks and how it works, we start thinking about the shape of a handstand and how do we squash this person into that shape. That goes for everything, actually. Handstand is probably too advanced a move to really talk about that. Take a very simple movement like quadruped, also called 4-point kneeling or tabletop position or all fours, depending on the mode of movement you're working in. Are you trying to squash your plus size body into a teeny tiny hands under shoulders, knees under hips quadruped shape? Why? So the movement serves the person. So you adapt the movement to the person. You do not force or adapt the person into the movement. It sounds like a distinction without a difference, but it's to do with treating the person in front of you as a whole person. It's to do with treating yourself as a whole person. The movement lives in your body. It is not independent of your body. And the way other people do the movement is to do with their bodies. So the movement serves you, not the other way around. If the movement doesn't serve you, then change it. And don't do it with a bad attitude. Say, hey, do you know what? This isn't working for me. What can I do to make it work? And if someone challenges you on that, just tell them. And if they don't like it, and if they try and force your body into a movement to serve their objective visual purposes, then they're not the right person to be working with you. And you can step yourself away from that. Protect your body. The movement serves you, not the other way around. So I could talk about that a lot, but it really is, I think it's fairly obvious. Permission. So, as coaches, it's important for us to give and continually reinforce permission for clients to make changes, adapt, explore, play, and make space for their bodies as they need to, and prioritize their comfort. Give people time to learn, feel their way through movements, explore them, find what feels right for their body, and to feel the sensation of being in the movement. Give people agency over their bodies. It's really common for people to come into studios, hand over all their agency. And as a coach, we have the power to give back that agency and continually give people permission to work with their bodies and to be comfortable in their bodies when they're working. Think about the amount of effort that goes into a really great training session. You don't want any of that energy to be wasted on feeling uncomfortable and trying to please the trainer who's decided that quadruped has to be this tiny little shape. Give your people permission. Equally, if you're making an adjustment on someone, because sometimes people feel like they're in a huge body, and then you ask them to go into a quadruped position, for example, and they're not that big, but they've given themselves this huge base, and it feels unstable. And you ask them to bring their knees in and their hands in, and you reinforce to them that your hips are not as big as you think they are, your butt's not that big, and your shoulders are not that broad. Bring your hands in a little. Try it, see how it feels, and then say the magic words. Does that feel better, worse, or neither? If it feels bad, you can go back to where we started. And then from there, you can make little adjustments to make sure that the alignments are safe so that they're not compromising any joints. Permission. Be explicit with it. It's much easier, guys, for coaches to give that permission than people don't give permission to themselves. So if you're training on your own or with a friend or a colleague or a family member, if they start stepping in and telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing, just invite them to concentrate on their own thing and allow you to explore it for yourself. You're going to have a hard time hurting yourself. Understand that maybe in time your intention is to move towards a movement in a certain way, but give yourself grace. Give yourself time to learn and explore and get to know your body. Give yourself permission to work in a way that feels comfortable and paced correctly for you. So we've got two big E's underpinning how you approach this. The movement serves the person. Permission and agency over your own body to have the time and the space to explore and feel comfortable using your body as it is today. And rest if you need to. And pause and watch and try again as much as you need to. Give yourself grace. Okay, practical solutions. Make space. So I just mentioned quadruped. It's a great example. If you're working in a bigger body or you're working with a big person who is in a bigger body, allow them to take up space. Encourage yourself. Take up space. Take up all the space available. Stop squashing yourself in corners and tiny little spaces. Make all of the postures bigger. Allow yourself to have a big base with your arms, with your legs. So quadruped's an interesting one because it's cued as hands under shoulders, knees under hips for good reason, because it's about stacking joints. But if you feel all squashed up, like your whole body is squashed up and your belly's in the way and your butt's in the way and your thighs are all squashed and your armpits are all squished and everything feels bad, and especially if you're a woman and you're curvy, maybe you can't breathe. Maybe your boobs are making it impossible for you to breathe and you just feel like you're being asked to take up less space and be small. Absolutely not. Break out. Make the base big. Take your knees wider. Take your hands wider. We'll talk about equipment in a minute. use equipment to create more space. Allow your body to open up into its fullness. Be big. Take up space. Give yourself room to move and maneuver and breathe. And don't feel cooped up and claustrophobic and like you have to be tiny and make yourself small. No, don't. And as I've said before, if you're in a context where you feel like you're being asked to do that, regardless of what your body needs, you're in the wrong context. And this will come up in the last section about authenticity. Make space for your body to feel comfortable and move. Also take up space. So a couple of points here. A lot of this, it's not as straightforward because it depends on, bigger bodies are all sorts of bodies, aren't they? It might be a lot of muscle mass and not a lot of flexibility, but it might be curvy, soft body or anything in between. Also, there may be other things happening. Hypermobility is quite common in a bigger, curvier, softer body. Because the joints move more to accommodate the body that you're in, which is a wonderful thing because it means that you're flexible, but it means it's going to take a little bit more time to find, I say it's a wonderful thing. Hypermobility can be troublesome for a lot of people, but let's just say you may be more flexible than you would be if you weren't in your bigger, softer, beautiful body. But it's going to take a little longer to find those joints and that comfort. The point of making space is to create comfort, room to move freely, room to feel free. Take up space in the room and feel like you can just be yourself and explore without judgment and without objective other than being in your body safely and comfortably. As you get safer and more comfortable, particularly if your body is softer and curvier, your base with practice and with a little time very quickly will come back in. So this is why quadrupeds is a great example, and bear is a great example. When I work with people with bigger bodies, quadruped and bear start out a bit wide so that you have space. I don't talk about the body being wide or anything like that. I just say, take your hands a little wider, take your feet a little wider, give yourself some space to move freely. And it works. And then when we come up into bear, and bear's a fairly difficult move, but when we come up into bear, there's loads of space there. And the body has room to breathe. You're a little higher up off the floor. And then we can start to look at what a handprint and a footprint looks like and how they relate to each other. We're not so squashed up that we can't think, right? So your body is open, free, you're starting to find your joints. Once you start to get the hang of bear and the size of a footprint and a handprint, little by little, base will come in. Not because your body shape has necessarily changed or the body size has changed, but because the flesh and the tissues are soft. So you feel more comfortable and secure in your body. You've started to build a little bit of strength. Bear is a nice movement to do. It feels good for a lot of people. And your base starts to come in and you start to find the feeling of your joints feeling stronger. It happens quite naturally. It's to do with comfort rather than anything else. You start to feel more comfortable to bring the joints in, to bring the hands and the knees in. And sometimes on the days when you're feeling a bit meh, you'll take that base out wide again. And I'm going to, you know what? I do this with clients regardless of body size. I find that when people are feeling tired and fatigued and stressed, bigger base, more space. Or when it's very hot, free up those armpits. Give some room for air circulation, right? Closer your body is to itself, it's just putting heat into itself. So it's okay, you know. We're not serving the movement's serving us. Remember, make space. So all of the movements, you can go bigger, wider, broader. Use equipment to help. Be creative in using equipment. So when I used to teach group classes, I always had, for everyone, a mat. I don't love yoga mats because they tend to, again, squash people into this small space, but at least it's a clean space, right? 2 blocks, this kind of block, a strap, like a non-stretchy D-ring strap, and a resistance band. Those, and then people normally had jumpers and things that you could use as padding if you needed to for underknees. Those few bits of equipment are the difference between accessing a movement and not accessing it, or feeling squashed and closed in and uncomfortable and claustrophobic, or not. So, these blocks, that strap, they make your arms and legs longer. So, you put these blocks under people's hands and they go from feeling closed and compressed and unable to breathe freely in a move to having some space between them and the floors. If you hold on to the blocks like this, this becomes a way of approaching any all fours work or bear with a bit more space between yourself and the floor. If you use blocks like these, a quadricep, general quad lunge, general kneeling lunge, suddenly a person can stay more upright because their hands can rest by their hips on the blocks, nice and tall, less hunching, less reaching for the floor, less squashing up. It's amazing. 2 blocks makes your arms longer or brings the floor up to meet you. However you choose to look at it. I like to think of it as it makes my arms longer because my arms are really proportionally short compared to the rest of my body. So it's useful. The blocks are really useful. Use the strap to lasso yourself. So say if you've got, I always say I'm happy to lasso bits of people's bodies and hand them to them. I'm a full service teacher. I will lasso your foot and hand it to you. Say, for example, shrimp squat. Say you're developing someone through shrimp squat. They're doing really great, but they don't yet have the hamstring strength or the balance or the equilibrium to be able to hold the leg up behind them without some support. But maybe you also want to work on that lifted chest. But for one reason or another, they can't reach the foot behind them. Lasso that bad boy, right? Lasso the foot, hand them the strap over the shoulder, lift and draw the leg back. Creating space. You're making people's legs and arms longer using the strap. Equally, seated pancake, half pancake. You don't want to squash yourself up because you've got a belly. Why should you have to compromise on the sensation and the depth of the movement because you have a belly and a waist, as so many of us do? When you fold on the inside of your leg rather than over the top of it so that you don't have your stomach squashing into your thighs. Use the strap, lasso your foot around the ball of the foot, give yourself some room, lengthen on the inside of the leg. Be creative. There's loads of stuff you can do simply with a strap, which can be doubled up with a tie or a belt or anything not stretchy, a bed sheet, a scarf, towel. These are not so. I would recommend having your own blocks. Don't replace blocks with books and boxes because they're not secure enough and they're not matching sizes. So just invest in some blocks. Resistance bands are an amazing way of starting to build control and supporting movements when the strength isn't quite there, so you can concentrate on muscle control more. Seated movements, having the resistance band under the feet when you're doing seated movements can really help people sit up straight. These blocks and cushions as well, great for sitting on the floor, especially sometimes people in bigger bodies can really struggle to sit upright on the floor. Instead of torturing yourself, grab a couple of blocks and sit on them. Or ideally, cushions thick. Meditation cushions are better because the corners on these blocks are really uncomfortable. You can cover them in a coat or a jacket. What are chairs? So use chairs not to sit on, but to assist. So if you're working on deepening a squat, if you take a dining room chair or a bench or a stool, you'll have levels that you can work out, particularly dining room chairs. You've got the seat, you've got the back. Potentially, you've also got a bar halfway between the seat and the back, and another bar halfway between the seat and the floor. That's a little ladder right there. If you put that against a wall with the seat facing the wall so it's nice and stable, step away from the chair, place your hands on the back of the chair, align your feet and knees so that they're aligned for a bodyweight squat, and under control, lower and lift, lower and lift, and start to cultivate your bodyweight squat towards frogger, towards monkey. Walk your hands down as you develop. Walk your hands down the chair. Start working. By the time you get to the seat, you are close to being able to start working high monkey from the floor, or with blocks in your hands so that you've got some extra lift. You can hold these blocks and use them as hands. Once you're working with a chair in that way, what if you have 2, 3 or 4 chairs in the house? What if you were to line them up and use the chair in place of the floor? So you sit into your high squat, place your hands on the seat or on the back of the chair, and then perform the monkey movement. Hands across, hop over, hands across, hop over. Work your way down the chair, the little ladder that you've made. You could use a step ladder. The chairs are just more stable. And carry on, and before you know it, for me, I work weekly with clients. Before I know it, those people are able to come down to the floor, and we start with high monkey, because remember, we want space. To be fair, I find that my clients in bigger bodies are great at squats for the most part. However, it's not always the case, and it depends on the scale of your body and where it's big. But you want to make space, use a higher base to perform moving squats. Frogger is a little different because frogger's a forward movement. So for that, this works quite well. Hands to the floor. You could, this is not so stable, but you can hold blocks like this. But I would consider using, if you want to be further away from the floor, first of all, consider doing duck walks, like high duck walks, so sitting in a high squat and walking forward. It works quite well. Yeah, of course, you can do lunge dips as well. But you could use a little stool. So if you've got like a very light coffee table or stool that you can use as a base for your hands. So you hold onto the stool, you step it forward, you hop forward, or step forward. Step it forward, hop forward. So you've just created an elevated floor for you to place your hands on to move. You could work upstairs. So you could stand at a staircase, place your hands, step up. Place your hands, step up. Right? Be creative. There's literally no reason. Look at those steps there. Place your hands, step up. Place your hands, step up. Experiment. Talk to the person. Say to them, show them, this is the movement I want us to try and do. How do you reckon? How do you reckon might we do it? Do you have a communicative relationship with your client? Can you make use of the space in the room around you and some bits of equipment, basic bits of equipment? A strap, resistance band, a couple of blocks will give you the space that you need. Be creative. I can't sit here and deconstruct every single move for you because there's infinite different ways of doing it, and it's going to be different for different people. Crab is often a tougher one. So here's what I suggest, and this is the next theme. Oh, by the way, use the wall a lot. I just want to make this point. For people in bigger bodies, lying on your front, on your face, can feel absolutely fucking terrible, right? It's hard to breathe, compressed. It can feel very bad. Use upright positions. The wall is fantastic because it pushes back, so it really develops, cultivates a lot of strength. Anybody who's ever done wall-based alignment training and handstands, you know that those wall skills, forced alignment, is really hard because the wall will not accommodate your lack of strength, right? You have to cultivate it. Use the wall to push against. Your prone twists, they can all happen at the wall. Press-ups can happen at the wall. A-frame, walk to plank, can happen at the wall. A-frame, squat, all of these movements can happen at the wall really effectively, whilst giving people loads of room between themselves and the wall so that they don't feel compressed, so that they don't feel like their boobs are sort of smothering them alive. Be creative. Walls are fantastic, and this is why I've specifically kept my walls as free as I can, and I've got these rugs on them so that people have soft surfaces to lean against and textural surfaces to lean against. So yeah, wall, it's a great tool, but there's loads. I could sit here and talk about tools all day long. Explore them, experiment with them. Okay, so the last one, the movements. So I was saying about crab. Crab is not so easy because actually for people in bigger bodies, crab I found can be very, very complex. And even for people, I find that crab is the hardest movement for most people in any body. So what do I do with crab? Assess, address, apply. You're doing that anyway with your client. You're just approaching everything, or as you work through elements or whatever you're working through. You're doing this anyway. Assess, address, apply. But turn it around, apply it to the movement. The movement serves the person. So, crab, for example. We've tried crab. Most of the people I know, it takes a while to get the hang of crab and to do it well and to feel comfortable in it. Normally, you need to be really warm. What's the sticking point with crab for you or for your client? Think about the aspect of crab that you're wanting to train with them, and then break the movement down into its component parts and train the part. I do this a lot also with Twisting Bear and Spider-Man, because especially the transition to Spider-Man. Break it down. What are you working on? Is it that what do we need to build to start cultivating? What do we need to build to pull the parts together to create crab? Let your client know this is what we're working towards, because the feeling of constructing the parts into the whole is very satisfying. It works especially well for both Superman and crab, Spider-Man, and crab. Do we need to cultivate wrist and hand strength and mobility? Is it openness across the chest and the shoulders? Is it core stability and strength? Is it glute strength? Is it hamstring strength? Is it feet, grounding through the feet? Work on each part of that and do it explicitly with yourself, with your client. This is the movement I'm building. What's going wrong? What feels weird and uncomfortable? How can I work on that? So I use Twisting Bear and twisting the sit-throughs, floating tabletop twisting, to help people work on grounding through their feet, to teach people to use their feet to support them and to push and pull. Reverse tricep dips for opening through the chest. Also, Superman, any Superman butterfly shrugs, any upper back protraction, retraction exercises to become familiar with the movement of the shoulder blades and stretching through the chest, of press-ups, wall press-ups, prone twists, but identify how you're breaking down the movement, how you're addressing different aspects of the movement in order to cultivate a connection between the person or yourself and your body part, the part of your body you're trying to connect to the movement and potentially build the strength and the mobility to connect to the movement. So by creating the nervous system relationship between your brain and your foot, between your brain and your hand, thighs, glutes, whatever, by creating that connection between your brain and your body and how it engages with the floor and the space around it in order to build, like Lego, this movement, this shape, this control, the skill, you are cultivating the strength and the flexibility and the proprioception at the same time. Proprioception, understanding your body in space. And it's a big topic, proprioception, and for people who struggle with body image, which is not always an issue to do with body size, but if you struggle with body dysmorphia and body image, then proprioception could be an issue. And so that the comment I made about making space and finding comfort first and then aligning yourself, learning what is shoulder distance, what is foot distance, is an important part of that. But it's once you get started, and then you can start to look at proprioception. And now we're getting really deep into one-to-one coaching territory and how different people respond to different things. Work movements that are comfortable and enjoyable. Challenge yourself on the days that you feel confident and well. On the ones that feel weird and gross, sure, but be lighthearted about it, right? Your body is amazing, whatever it looks like, whatever size it is, and your ability to adapt movement for it is an additional skill. Treat it as a gift. And if you're a coach, it's a gift to be able to help people find their way to create an amazing relationship with everything about their body that's brilliant. So I hope so that's approach. That's a very light touch on approach, and it's for you to go away and explore. Quick review. Permission and agency to move freely, to feel comfortable, to enjoy, to stop, to say, no, this hurts, it's not right for me, can I try a different way? I need to try a different way. Explore the movements, play with the movement, understand why you're doing the movement. As in why in your body and why for yourself. 2, so permission and agency is 1. Make space for your body to feel comfortable to move freely. Make the movements bigger, expand them, make your arms and legs longer. Elevate yourself, use chairs, use walls, use stools. Be creative, use staircases. Also, seated exercise is fantastic. It is much harder, so if you're not required to be on a seat, start on a seat and then move off it during the course of the session and keep coming back and off, because seats can be very restrictive, but it is good to do some seated work if you need to. So coming back to making space, use equipment. That's point 3. Use equipment, be creative. Get involved with the equipment. Once you don't need it anymore, it's there if you want it, but you don't need it. I find that sitting on something when you're sitting on the floor is almost always useful for almost everybody. And then assess, address, apply. Don't only apply it to the movement assessment in your or your client's body, also use it to break down movements that are escaping you or are not appropriate for the body that you're in. So that's approach. Last one, and this is going to be brief. Authenticity. So, be honest with yourself, right? Especially if you're a coach. Is it appropriate for you to be working with the client that you're working with? Are you overwhelmed, daunted, afraid of working with clients in bigger bodies because you don't know what you're doing and you're not confident enough to communicate freely and clearly with the client? It's fine. It's okay. It takes a while. It takes time to learn, and you owe it to yourself to give yourself that time. So if you have a client who turns up and it feels like you're not ready, but you want to try and understand and learn, recommend that the client finds someone else for now, or say to them, I've never worked with a person in a bigger body before. It's not always appropriate to say this, so you have to really use your judgment. But I would really love to learn how to do it together. and then maybe you can find a way of working with them. But I would say start by doing some learning, do some training. There's some trainings out there that you can go and explore, or I'm more than happy to work with new or developing teachers to try and help cultivate that. So find the expertise. Don't just assume you know what you're doing because you've coached lots of people before. Think about the fact that you're working with a whole client and be honest, is it right for you to be working with them? If even after all this, you're still carrying value judgments about people in bigger bodies and and what it means to be in a bigger body, then you don't belong in a room with a person with a bigger body. You shouldn't be teaching people if you're harboring value judgments about the quality of their body, the quality of their life, the quality of their movement without knowing them and understanding their experience first. Open yourself to talk to people and learn about what it feels like. If you've never been in a bigger body, you don't know. You don't know what it feels like. And even if you have been in a bigger body, you don't know. Just because someone is in a bigger body, it doesn't mean they have a problem with it. Right? Equally, they may have a much worse problem with it than you can even imagine, and you could be making that worse. So do you want to be part of the problem, part of a solution? The only solution that you're part of as a movement coach is the one that involves helping people find movement autonomy, comfort and joy, quality of life through movement. That's all. Your job is to keep those people safe, and that means mentally as well as physically safe. So are you harming people by being in the wrong room with the wrong client? There's nothing wrong with saying, I can't help you, but I can help you find someone else maybe. Especially if you're in the GMB community, it only takes a post to say, hey, are there any clients out there who are comfortable working with this, in this particular way? So yeah, be honest, be authentic, we do not need to be all things to all people. Be what you're good at, right? And I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't work with high-level elite trainees because it's not my strength at this point. I probably could. I would give myself a nervous breakdown. I'm good at working with people who have diverse body needs, who are total beginners, who are working to high levels, but they want something much more connected and personable. So I don't put myself in spaces or offer my services in ways that I can't deliver. So just be honest. You are not all things to all people, and we do not need you to be walking around thinking that you can fix everyone, because nobody needs you to fix them, right? So just be fair. Be fair to yourself. Do what you're good at. Be authentic. Start to think about what kind of coach / client, depending on what side of the fence you're on, do you want to work with. Chemistry sessions are good. So if you're a coach or a client, it is useful to ask for a consultation, a casual chat to talk about what your objectives and needs and goals are. It should be free, but movement sessions, it's up to coaches whether they want to offer free services. That it's not necessary. You just need to know whether you have the right values, that you're aligned with each other, and that you feel comfortable and safe in the room with each other, and that there's some knowledge and some desire to work together there. Think about what you want. What's the point of the movement that you're doing? Be honest about that. And really, as I mentioned earlier on, consider whether it's useful for issues around weight and body size to encroach into your movement beyond adapting the movement to make it comfortable and safe for you to do. Really consider whether you want weight loss to be part of your movement practice. And I would recommend, my experience is that for the people in bigger bodies or smaller bodies, in fact for everyone, weight loss tends to get in the way of really productive, thinking about weight loss as an objective tends to get in the way of good, productive, progressive, sustainable, moderate, enjoyable movement. I found that all of the clients who were able to eventually let that go have made the best progress. And the final thing is work with what you have now. Do what you can with what you have. Your body is amazing, / your client's body is amazing. And if you're a coach and you don't think that about every single human body that you work with, then why are you coaching? All bodies are incredible and beautiful. Work with what you have today. Work with what is. Not what you wish, not what you perceive to be good or proper or correct, not what other people think you should or shouldn't be, not what the shape looks like it should be, not what your coach looks like or does. Work with what feels good today. Give yourself grace. Enjoy your movement. And make space for yourself in the world. And as coaches, help your clients make space for themselves in the world, because the world needs us all, and it needs us all to make space for each other. So that's all I have to say right now today on the topic of movement, diversity and bigger bodies. I hope it was useful. You can always contact me if you feel like, oh, what? That was a bit of a light touch. I'm happy to talk to people directly. I don't tend to get involved in message board chats so much, or comment thread chats. But if you genuinely, seriously want to talk about any of these ideas or try any of them out, as I say, chemistry sessions, consultation, kind of chats, cups of tea, I'm always happy to do those. But if you want something that's more like in the vein of coaching or mentoring around teaching, that's paid for coaching work. So, and I'm happy to do both. But I like to draw a distinction there, because we have to earn a living as coaches, don't we? So I'm more than happy to talk to anyone face to face in real life or by email. Yeah, I hope this was enjoyable. Thanks.